Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're taking the Florida real estate math exam and flipping it completely on its head. We're not going to look at it as a terrifying arithmetic test. Instead, we're going to treat it like a strategic game of spotting traps. Let's be honest, exam math can feel a little scarier than a Florida gator staring you down, but once you actually see how the test makers build their questions behind the scenes, you're never going to look at this exam the same way again.
We've got a fantastic roadmap for you today. We're going to tackle math traps, break down the commission T formula, untangle multi-party splits, demystify the seller's net formula, and then lock it all in with a rapid-fire practice quiz. Let's get right into it. All right, first things first, we need to change your test day mindset. Look, it's totally normal to feel overwhelmed by closing math, but I want you to reassure yourself right now that this is really just basic arithmetic, mostly just simple multiplication and division, cleverly hidden behind tricky word problems. You see, math on this exam is literally a game of spotting the trapdoor answers. The test writers know exactly what they're doing. They know exactly where you're likely to stop calculating or where you might accidentally use the wrong operation. But here's the secret. By learning how to calculate those wrong answers on purpose, you're going to instantly recognize their bait. You'll be able to outsmart the exam writers every single time. So let's jump into our first major tool for beating the test, which revolves around calculating commissions. We call this the PI method. It simply stands for price times interest or rate equals everything. And everything here is your total commission. You can think of it just like a classic T formula. If you know any two of these values, you can instantly find the third just by working forwards or backwards. Need the total commission? Just multiply. But if you're given the total commission and need to find the sale price, well, then you just divide. Making this formula your absolute best friend is going to save you a massive amount of time on test day. Now, things get a little more interesting when we add more people to the mix. Let's talk about multi-party splits. Whenever you're dealing with multiple brokers and associates taking a slice of the pie, you want to use what we call the two-step ladder, or TFTS, total first, then split. You absolutely must calculate the total gross commission first. Only after you have that total do you apply the broker split, and then finally the associate split. A great way to visualize this is to treat the total commission like a whole pizza. You have to bake the whole pizza first before you can ever start handing out individual slices to the agents. This is absolutely crucial because if you skip a chronological step, say multiplying percentages too early, you are going to fall right through a trapdoor. Test makers love to throw in a distractor answer that represents the associate split multiplied directly against the total gross commission. It looks super tempting, but sticking to the strict chronological order is literally the only way to find the actual take-home pay. Skipping steps just hands the test makers an easy victory. Okay, moving right along to the big one. This next concept trips up so many test takers, but we're going to make it crystal clear. We're talking about the seller's net formula. It's highly counterintuitive because you're figuring out a sell price based on what the seller wants to walk away with. Here is the golden rule. Because a broker's commission is a percentage of the final, unknown sales price, not a percentage of the seller's net, you have to use a reverse formula. You take the seller's net, add any fixed costs, and then divide that total by 100% minus the commission rate. I'm actually going to slow down here for a second because rushing through this specific math is the fastest way to blow a question. Step 1. Add up every single thing the seller wants to keep, plus their fixed costs, like a mortgage payoff. Step 2, take 100% and subtract the commission rate. So if it's a 6% commission, you're using 94%. Step 3, take your total from step 1 and divide it by your percentage from step 2. Listen to me on this. Division is the absolute key to surviving this setup. And here is exactly why you have to divide, rather than just adding the commission to the target net. Let's say a seller wants to net $200,000, and you just casually add 6% to that. You get $212,000, right? But wait, if you take a 6% commission out of that $212,000, the seller only nets $199,280. They fall short of their goal. If you add instead of dividing, you will land squarely on a trapdoor answer. All right, you've got the theory down. Now it's time to put it to the test. Grab some scratch paper because we're running through a 4-question quiz to lock this in. Let's look at question 1. A property sells for $300,000. The commission rate is 6%, split equally between listing and selling brokers. What does each broker receive? Remember your PI method here. Calculate your total first, then apply your equal splits. Here are your 2 primary choices. Option A is $9,000. Option B is $18,000. Take a second, map out your two steps. Which one of these is the trap?
If you picked option A, $9,000, you nailed it. Why? Because that $18,000 option is the gross total before the split. It's sitting right there intentionally to catch anyone who stops climbing the ladder after step 1. You multiply 300,000 by 6% to get 18,000, sure, but you have to remember to slice that pizza in half.
Question 2. A broker earns a 5% commission on a $600,000 sale. If the listing broker gets 60% of the split, how much does the listing broker receive? Let's test that total first then split rule one more time. Visualize the whole pizza before you assign that 60% slice. Here is the bait. We've got option A at $12,000, option B at $18,000, and option C at $30,000. Carefully work through the math. Spot the trap. Exactly right. The answer is $18,000. $30,000 was your gross total, just 5% of $600,000. If you pick $30,000, you stopped at step 1. And what about that $12,000 trap in option A? That perfectly represents the buyer's broker's 40% share. They put that there specifically to see if you confused the two sides of the transaction. Sneaky, right? Okay, question 3. A seller wants to net $150,000 after paying a 6% commission and $2,500 in fixed closing costs. What must the property sell for? This is our reverse formula test. Remember what we just talked about regarding the addition trap? Here are your options. We're looking at $155,263, $162,234, or $160,526. I'll give you a moment here. Add your net and costs together, and then perform your division. Remember, 100% minus 6% gives you your magic dividing number of 0.94.
Boom! Brilliant job. The answer is option B. You took that combined $152,500 and you properly divided it by 94%, or 0.94, to hit the exact required sale price of $162,234.
And notice how those distractor answers like $161,650 or $160,526 were just sitting there, waiting for anyone who forgot the formula and mistakenly tried to multiply and add the percentages directly. Dividing by the remaining percentage is literally the only way to accurately reverse engineer this math. Wow, we have covered an incredible amount of ground today, from mastering the pie method to climbing the two-step ladder and finally conquering that infamous seller's net formula. You know exactly how the test makers build their wrong answers to trick you now. So the only question left is, how many more points are you going to score on your real estate exam? Keep practicing these setups, refuse to fall for the bait, and you are absolutely going to crush it.